us to another episode on your G12 exams. So in this episode we are looking at the 2021 Science Paper 2. So without wasting much of your time, let us move straight to section M, starting with question 1. Question 1 reads, the branch of chemistry that deals with substances and processes in living things is known as. So basically we are talking about living things. So living things are to do with the word bio. Remember, bio means life. So if you set the option, you see that A is biochemistry. So biochemistry is basically the best answer. If you look at the other option, if you look at inorganic chemistry, this is basically the study of compounds that do not contain carbons except for the case of carbonates. Then organic chemistry is basically the study of substance that contains carbon. Then physical chemistry is basically the study of physical characteristics of materials and how they react to each other. Let us move to question 2. The following graph shows the cooling curve for a substance. Which of the following gives the correct states for a substance at P, Q, and S? So basically what is key here is we need to identify the states at P, Q, and S. It's important always to understand the question before you do anything. So what we do is basically this is the cooling curve. So as you know the cooling curve, we also need to know the other side of the curve when you're talking about evaporation curve. So basically we know that when you're cooling, basically we start with gas. So P is gas. Then at this point we have a mixture of gas and liquid. Then at Q we should have liquid. Then at this we have basically liquid and solid because they start solidifying. Then S itself is a solid. So now if you look at identifying what is P, at P basically this is gas. So anything liquid out and solid, so A and D are out. Then we go to basically Q. So Q is basically liquid. So we need to look for gas liquid, which is C. Then B is out. Then S is solid. So notice that C is the correct answer. Let us look at question 3. Which test could be used to show that a sample of water is pure? It A freezes at exactly 0 degrees Celsius, B is colorless and tasteless, C is neutral to litmus, D turns anhydrous copper 2 sulfate from white to blue. So if you look at the options, 3 of them could be used to just test whether the liquid is water. Then we know that A could be used, C could be used, then D could be used. But among these, there are only 2 that among the 3 chem tests used to check whether the liquid is water. So the first one is basically we know that water turn blue cobalt chloride paper pink. Then B turns white and anhydrous copper 2 sulfate blue, which is D. Then the one which is used to test whether the water indeed is pure or not is the fact that pure water boils at 100 degrees Celsius and freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. So among these options, you notice that A is the one that is used to test for pure water. So the key is pure water. If you look at C basically is not only water that is neutral to litmus test. We know that salt water and various organic liquids, they have got a pH value of 7, which indicates that the solution is neutral. So hence C cannot be used to be the case. Then D is just tells us whether it's water or not, but it does not tell us whether the water is pure or not. We look at question 4. oxygen atom and the oxide ions are chemically identical? No. B, are isotopes of oxygen? No. Then we look at C, have the same number of electrons. This is basically not true. Why? Because what you notice here is the oxide ion is of this formula, so it has a negative 2 or 2 minus, meaning it has gained 2 extra electron to complete the outer shell. Then D, have the same number of protons. Yes, so the number of protons remain the same, the atomic number, despite it attracting getting 2 additional electrons to complete the outer shell, which is an oxide. So D is the correct answer. We go to question 5. Which set of properties describes those of an ionic compound? So we have conductivity in molten state, then solubility in water. So in terms of conductivity in molten state, which is not in the solid state, basically they are good conductors because they involve a metal and a non-metal, so they have got those ions in between. So pour out, then we remain with A and B. So in terms of solubility in water, what you notice, water is basically a polar molecule. Okay, so oxygen is slightly positive charged and hydrogen slightly negative charged. So because of this, these can dissolve ionic compound in separate ions. So in terms of solubility, they are soluble. Then A is the best answer among the options. Let us look at question 6. The reactive formula mass of copper 2 sulfate pentahydrite. This formula is, so basically the question is requiring us to find the relative mass. So basically for us to find the relative mass, we just need to go to a periodic table and find basically the mass number. So mass number of copper, then plus of sulfate, then plus how many oxygen? There are 4 oxygen, which is basically 4 multiplied by oxygen, then plus how many hydrogens are there? It will be 2 times 5, which is basically 10 hydrogens, then plus, then we have 5 oxygen, like this. So having done this, we can go to the periodic table. Then we check. The first one is copper. So we know copper is here, which is, this is 64. So we have 64. Then plus we have basically sulfate. So sulfate is basically here, which is 32. Then plus we have 4 oxygen. So it will be 4 multiplied by oxygen. What is oxygen? So oxygen is basically 16. Then plus we have basically 10 hydrogens. As you see from here, we have 10 hydrogens. So it will be basically 10 times hydrogen is basically 1. Then plus, then next we have 5 oxygen again. So it will be 5 times the oxygen is 16, which is 16. Then when we start adding this, we discover that this is basically 64 plus 32, then plus 4 times 16 is 64, then plus 10 times 1, which is 10, then plus 5 times 16, which is 80. When we add this, we are going to discover that basically this is going to be basically 64 plus 64 is basically 1 28 plus 32, which is basically 160 plus 10, which is 170 plus 80, which is basically 250. So 250 is basically the answer. So when you come here, we notice that the answer is 250, which is D. So D is the correct answer. Number 7, why is ethanoic acid described as a weak acid? So basically, we have two types of acid, which is weak acids and strong acids. So an acid is said to be weak if it partially ionizes in water. So basically, it's described as a weak acid because we should basically partially ionize in water, which should be basically C. Then on the other hand, strong acids are acids that are completely ionized in water to form hydrogen ions. Examples of strong acids are hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, we have nitric acid. Then weak acids we have ethanoic acid, phosphoric acid, and carbonic acid, in case you are asked those questions. Then just maybe you're wondering, what is ionization? So ionization is just basically the process by which neutral molecules split into ions in water. That's what ionization means. We go to question 8. An aqueous solution of aluminum chloride is tested with some reagents. Which of the following observation is correct? So again, you need to spend some time to understand basically these are tests of aqueous solution. So basically, we have a reagent added there, which is aluminum chloride, then observation. So acidified barium nitrate to white precipitate, then B, aqueous ammonium, observation, white precipitate insoluble in excess. So basically, the reagent added to aqueous ammonia should be aluminum chloride, and it will give us white precipitate. So this B is the correct answer. If you look at C, aqueous sodium hydroxide, then we have observation white precipitate insoluble in excess. So for this one, I supposed to be white precipitate but soluble in excess. So it's this part which makes it incorrect. Then powder copper gray precipitate, this is not correct. So B is the correct answer. This is basically among the tests for ions. Let us look at question 9. A solution of sulfuric acid has a concentration of 0.25 moles per decimeter cubic. What is the mass of the acid in 25 centimeter cubic of the solution? So this is sulfuric acid. So the question is basically asking us to find the mass. So for us to find the mass, we need to know the number of moles. What have we been given? We've been given molality and the volume. Then molality is given by number of moles divided by volume. So basically, we can find the number of moles by just multiplying molality by volume. Now volume should be in decimeter cubic. Then we know that in 1 decimeter cubic we have 1000 centimeter cubic. So to find this volume in decimeter, we just divide 25 by 1000, then we get 0.025 decimeter cubic. Then we know what molality is 0.25 moles per decimeter cubic. Then we multiply by 0.025 decimeter cubic. So you notice here this one and this one cancels. Then when we multiply this one, we are going to end up with 0.006 625 moles. So now we know the number of moles in sulfuric acid, which is basically given by this formula. So now for us to find the mass, so now the mass is given by number of moles multiplied by relative molecular mass. So we can find the relative molecular mass of sulfuric acid by going to the periodic table. So if you go to the periodic table, we know that basically this is the formula for sulfuric acid. So how many hydrogens? There are 2, so it will be 2 times 1. Then sulfur, so sulfur has a mass number of 32, so it will be, there is only one sulfur, 32 plus. Then oxygen, there are 4 oxygen and 16, so it will be 4 multiplied by 16. Once we add this, we are going to know that this is a 4 plus 32 plus 64. We are going to end up with basically 98. So 98 is basically the relative molecular mass. So now, having found that, we can just come on the substitute 0.00625 multiplied by 98. Then when we multiply that, we are going to end up with basically 0.6125 grams as our answer. So if you look at the options, we discover that A is the correct answer. Let us look at question 10. The following graph was obtained in a reaction between dilute hydrochloric acid and magnesium ribbon. Question: what was the average rate of production of hydrogen? So basically the question requires us to find the average rate of production. So for us to find the rate of production rate, we will need to find basically velocity 2 minus velocity 1 over time 2 minus time 1. So this is just the rate of volume of hydrogen produced per time in seconds. So we are starting from 0, then we are producing up to somewhere 60. So it will be 60, which is volume 2 minus basically initial, which is 0 over basically final time, which is in 30 seconds, minus 0, which is basically 60 over 30. So 60 into divided by 30, we end up with 2.0 centimeter cubic per second. So this is basically the rate of production, which is just the same as the slope of this curve, which is basically the difference here. We notice is 20 over the change, which is 10. 10 into 20 is to still give us 2 centimeter cubic per second, which is, if you look at the option, you discover that C is the correct answer. So this is how you get this question. Let us look at question 11. Element T forms an amphoteric oxide of the formula T subscript 2 oxygen subscript 3. In which group of the periodic table is T likely to be found? So for us to know the group in which T is likely to be found, we need to know the valence number. So remember, when you are coming up with the chemical formula, what you do is basically you are going to cross over the valence number. So now for this one, we need to work backward. So since we have 2 here, then 3 here, what this tells us is basically this 2 goes here, then this 3 comes here, then we end up with basically T 3, then O2. So what this is telling us is basically T is the number of electrons in the outer shell, the number of electrons in before that required to fill the outer shell. So this tells us T is coming from group 3, then O is coming from group basically 6. So T is likely to come from basically group 3, which is C in this case. So basically we use the backward way of writing the chemical formula. Look at question 12. Which of the following is the distinctive property of transition element? So we're looking for this distinctive property. So A forms colored compounds. Yes, they do. B has a high melting point. Yes, just like metals. C has a variable valence. Yes. D is a good conductor of electricity, just like main metals. So what you notice here, we're looking for a distinctive property. So that distinctive property is C. Only the transition element have got a variable valence. This is only the occurs to transition element. So that's why C becomes the correct answer. We go to number 13. The following table shows the proton number of 4 elements represented by the letters V, W, Y, and Z. So which of the following statements is correct? V is a metal. We need to find out V is more reactive than Y. W is more reactive than Z. Y and Z are in the same period. So basically, for us to answer this question, we need to do electronic configuration of these. So start with V. So V has 9. So at the first shell we have 2. Then 9 minus 2 is 7. So 7 is less than 8. So the last shell is 7. So this is basically a non-metal. So we notice that A is incorrect. Then we go to W. We have basically 2. Then 11 minus 2 is 9. 9 is greater than 8, so 8. Then we have 1. So this W is a metal. Then you have basically Y, which is basically 2. The first shell, the second one 8, which is 10. Then 17 minus 10 is a 7. So this one is also a non-metal in group 7. Then we have Z, which is basically 2. Then 8. Then 8, which is 18, 10 plus 8, then 19 minus 18 is a 1. So what we know is W and Z are metals, while V and Y are non-metals. So let us now compare. V is more reactive than Y. So if you look at V is has got basically 2 shells. So if it has 2 shells, it's in period 2. Then Y is in period 3. So remember the activity of non-metals, and these are in group 7. The basically halogens increases as you go upwards. So V is more reactive than Y. This is basically true. C, W is more reactive than Z. So W is a metal, Z is also a metal, but Z is in group 4. So the activity of metals in group 1 increases as we move down the period. So C is incorrect. D, Y, and Z are in the same period. They are not. If you say Y is basically in period 3, then Z is in period 4. So D is incorrect. So B is the correct answer. Let us look at question 14. Aluminium is used in the manufacture of aeroplanes. Which property of aluminium makes it possible for this use? A, covered with an reactive layer of aluminium carbonate. B, good conductor of electricity. C, low density. D, poor conductor of it. So basically this is a low density, which makes it to be used in aeroplanes. We go to question 15. Gas X has the following properties: 1. Colorless. 2. Turns red litmus blue. 3. No effect on lime water. 4. Soluble in water. What is gas X? So basically this one is basically ammonia. So ammonia is basically the one that turns red litmus paper blue, and it's colorless in color. Then it also has no effect on lime water. So basically this is ammonia. Let us look at question 16. Which of the following will react with ammonium chloride to produce ammonium gas? We have A. Calcium carbonate, B. Calcium hydroxide, C. Calcium metal, D. Calcium oxide. So basically we are looking at the case where we are having ammonium as a gas. So we know that when alkalis react with ammonium salts, they produce salts and ammonium gas and water. So 3 products are produced. So we need to look for an alkali. So an alkali here is basically our calcium hydroxide. So this calcium hydroxide is going to react with ammonium chloride, which is NH4C, which is basically aqueous solution. This is aqueous solution. Then react with sodium hydroxide, which is also aqueous. Then in the product will be basically sodium chloride, which is a salt, aqueous state, plus the ammonia gas, then plus water. So this is what is going to happen. So that's how you know. So among this, we look for an alkali, which is calcium hydroxide. We go to question 17. Which equation represents an incomplete combustion of ethane? So basically when we have an incomplete combustion of ethane, basically we are going to end up with basically production of carbon soot or carbon monoxide and water. So among the products we have carbon monoxide and water. So among the option, we notice that basically A here, this is not water, this is basically hydrogen. So A is out. B is basically this is carbon dioxide, so it's out. We remain with C and D. So among C and D, so C is basically carbon monoxide and water is there, but this one has carbon dioxide, so D is out. So by elimination, remain that C is basically the best answer. So that's how you deal with this question. We go to 18. The following diagram shows the structure of butene, an alkene which is manufactured by cracking hydrocarbons. Which hydrocarbon can be cracked to make butene? So basically we need to understand what cracking is. So cracking is basically the process of breaking down big hydrocarbons into smaller molecules. So we are basically breaking these huge or large hydrocarbons. So if you look at the options, we have a decane, which is basically an alkene. Then we have ethane. Ethane basically is an alkane. Methane is an alkane. Propane is an alkane. So all these are alkane, all of them, and decane alkane. But now we need to see, if you look at this formula, butane, we have a C4, then basically H 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So we have basically 8. So now if you see B, we cannot use it because this is smaller than the first one, so B is out. C is smaller than this. Then D is also smaller than this butene. So only the A can be cracked to be broken down into small molecules called butene. So A is the correct answer. Let us look at question 19. Which polymer contains only 3 different elements? So basically we are only looking for 3 different elements. So if you look at A, protein, so protein contains 3 elements, which is basically nitrogen, we have hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. So it contains 4 elements. If you look at polyethylene, is made from hydrocarbons. So hydrocarbons only contains basically carbon and hydrogen. Then polypropane. So polypropane, they are also hydrocarbons, so they only contain carbon and hydrogen. Starch. So starch is basically a monomer, so which is basically belongs to carbohydrates with the general formula of basically CnH2, or then N. So this is basically, you see that there are 3 elements here. We have carbon, hydrogen, and the oxygen. So this is the one that contains basically 3 different elements. We move to question 20. What is the linkage between the units in tellurine? So tellurine basically the ester linkage is basically this one. So if you look at the linkages, you notice that this is the double bond between carbon and oxygen. Then we also have a single unsaturated. You've seen this. So this is basically for tellurine. Then C, for your own information, so C, this is basically amide and amide, which is the linkage for nylon. So you really need to know these linkages. So this is tellurine. So these, they normally come. So make sure that you know these 2 clearly. Otherwise, it will be a much more easier question when you come across this one. So basically, this is how you answer the multiple choice questions to get the optimal marks and ensure that you move towards getting that distinction. So please join me as I look at section B of this paper.